Before television, radio was one of the most popular forms of entertainment, by having radio shows that were broadcast week to week, very much in the way that we use television nowadays. But radio was not just a form of entertainment. It was also one of the main ways of news travel. Also, before television, children played more games, like marbles, as well as played outside more in games like jump rope and hopscotch.
Of course, movies had been very popular all through the years. People then, I think, spent more time with their personal hobbies, whether it's sewing, knitting, collecting stamps, arrowheads, whatever it might be.
The creation of television cannot be solely attributed to one person. Many scientists from all over the world contributed to the invention. In March 1925, Scotsman John Logie Baird gave the first public demonstration of the mechanical TV. However, the long-term potential of the mechanical TV was restricted because it could not go quickly enough to create a clear enough image. The creation of the mechanical TV ended in the early 1930s. But soon after the languished idea of the mechanical TV, scientists soon began working on the electronic television, which was the new hope in the TV business. Some of the most notable inventors of the electronic TV were Philo T. Farnsworth, who created the rudimentary TV camera and the receiver, and Vladimir Zworykin, who produced working prototypes of his iconoscope and kinescope. Vladimir Zworykin is often known as the father of television because by the end of the 1930s to the early mid-40s, TV contained more Zworykin's ideas and inventions than anyone else's.
At the World's Fair, in the RCA building, they were showing TV for the first time. They had it in one room, and a group of us would stay on one side, and you watch the other group through TV. They would talk. So that's the first time I saw TV.
Television was reintroduced to the public at the 1939 World's Fair, and the public's reaction to TV was just what the inventors wanted.
Most people were glad to have it, We felt like, it was giving us a lot of information.
They more were just fascinated by it as a novelty.
We were so excited to have television, we would just sit and watch the test pattern. We would turn it on, and it would just be like snow and static. And the test pattern, we would just sit and watch that. We thought that was so fascinating.
We just didn't have a TV for a long time. A lot of people didn't. They were pretty expensive to have.
However, many people did have a TV set during the 1950s. In fact, the 50s are often referred to as the golden age of television because that's when television hit its popularity. And once television entered the spotlight, other areas began to fade in its shadow, like newspaper, simply because people could get all the news and entertainment they needed from television. Many people even thought of television as a live newspaper. Radio did decline in popularity, but it also became popular in other aspects.
It turned more to music and talk shows, things of that type. It developed niche audiences, small audiences that were interested in particular topics, rather than just being general programming like it was before.
1950s television also had a large impact on the family dynamic. Families didn't sit around the dinner table at mealtimes as much, because it conflicted with times that shows were on TV. Instead, families sat around the television and ate their meals. From there came the idea of the TV dinners, which were packaged frozen dinners that people would heat up right before the mealtime, so they wouldn't miss a minute of their favorite TV shows.
You kept up with certain shows. You knew you were going to be on every week. You watched them for sure. Didn't want to miss one of those shows, and you'd work the whole evening around it so you'd be ready to watch. And everybody'd stop what they're doing and go watch the TV.
One of those many shows that people situated their whole schedules around, and probably the most popular, was I Love Lucy, which starred Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. It aired October 15, 1951, and it was about a husband and wife couple living in New York City. Within its first month of being aired, I Love Lucy had become the top-rated TV program.
Let's face it, Rick. When it comes to money, there are two kinds of people. The earners and the spenders, or as they are more popularly known, husbands and wives.
Yeah, brother, if they had to make their dough, they would think twice before spending it that fast.
Yeah.
What's so tough about earning a living?
Yeah. Have you ever done it?
No, but I could.
Ha!
We'll change places. You'll get jobs and you take care of the house for a week, okay?
Okay.
Okay?
Another popular show of the 1950s was Leave It to Beaver, which was about a naive boy and the adventures he got into. It debuted October 4th, 1957. Also a popular type of show back in the 1950s was a variety show. Variety shows featured vaudeville-type performances. Probably one of the most popular variety shows was The Bob Hope Show, which aired April 9th, 1950. The Bob Hope Show holds the record as the longest-running variety show in television's history. It ran for 45 years. 1950s television also had a large impact on the advertising world, including one of the greatest in advertising history, Ron Popeil.
But it's when he discovered the way to sell to a larger audience that everything changed for Ron Popeil.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you the greatest kitchen appliance ever made. It's called Shop-O-Matic.
What I love about your history is we got two television cameras facing us here. You went from state fairs to realizing this new invention was your way right through to the customer. And that's what made you, I think, the salesman of our time.
If there was no TV, I'd still be standing on some Coca-Cola boxes at the state or county fair and screaming my lungs out.
It also had a huge impact on sports because people didn't have to go out to see the sporting events anymore. In fact, in the 1950s, television coverage of the sports events worried sports leaders that it would hinder attendance at the games, so the NCAA put restrictions on the number of games that could be broadcasted. 1950s television changed the fashion world as well, simply by people seeing what the TV stars were wearing that week and wanting to wear it too. Movie theaters took a hard hit during the 1950s because people could stay home and watch TV for what seemed to be a similar kind of experience. By 1951, 55 movie theaters had closed in New York City alone. This happened in many places across the U.S. Politics also changed dramatically during the 50s. The main cause of this was none other than the television. It all started with the 1952 presidential race between Adlai Stevenson and Dwight Eisenhower. They were the first political candidates to use television commercials to gain voters. In fact, many people say the commercials of Eisenhower's campaign created a manner and feel that is still used in today's campaigns. The 1953 inauguration of Dwight D. Eisenhower was another impact on the political world as well as the television world. The reason? It was the first televised event to be broadcast live all across America. Television's news coverage has had effects on many events. Very recently, it had a large impact on the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre.
Seeing the people who were affected by that and seeing the emotion and what they were saying, the emotion in their voices and their faces, certainly brought it home a lot more than it would have just reading about it in a newspaper or reading about it on the internet.
Even more recently, the televised news coverage of the Boston Marathon bombings played a huge role in locating and bringing the main suspect of the attack into custody. By the end of the golden age of television, Americans owned more TV sets than refrigerators. There is no denying 1950s television has forever changed the world we live in. And for better or for worse, it will never be the same.
There's a lot going on that we didn't always know about, but with TV, you soon knew what was going on all around the world.
One thing television did was to take us inside our homes for our entertainment. It brought the entertainment inside. I think where through the years we've had a tendency just to stay within our homes for our entertainment rather than going outside or associating as much with neighbors as we did in the past.
I think television has brought the world to our doorstep. I think it also affects how we act, how we dress, how we think.
Today, the technological world has made great strides in television, with things like LCD TVs, flat-screen televisions, 3D television, high-definition TV, and much more. But the growth in television's popularity is arguably more amazing. In 1947, TV manufacturers were producing fewer than 200,000 TV sets a year. By the 1950s, TV manufacturers were producing 6 to 7 million sets a year. Today, 28.6 million TV sets are sold in the US per year. For many people, it's hard to imagine life without the effects of 1950s television.